Hi guys, today I'm going to take you through a mobility routine that you can use either to warm up for your aerial or if you're feeling particularly stiff from training. For the first exercise, we're going to work on quadruped shoulder circles. So I'm on all fours and I'm moving my shoulders and shoulder blades in circles backwards. I'm trying to squeeze my shoulder blades together, pull them down, then protract them, and then lift them up to my ears. I can then reverse this moving forwards. So next we're going to look at quadruped thoracic rotation. So staying on all fours, one hand goes on the middle of my back, and then I'm going to try and lift my elbow up towards the ceiling, opening my chest as I do this. I'm also pushing down through the supporting arm into the ground, and this helps me create more rotation through the middle of my spine. Even though this is a mobility exercise, I'm still keeping some core engagement just to help support my spine and to control the movement through my trunk. And with all of these exercises, it's important to remember that you should move within a range of motion that feels safe for you. So make sure that nothing feels painful. A small amount of discomfort as you stretch and mobilize is normal, but nothing should hurt. And then you can come on and do the other side, twisting through the spine. So next we'll look at our cat-cow. So really simple movement. I'm extending through the spine, arching my back, and then flexing the spine as I round my back. Again, just make sure you stay in a range of motion that feels comfortable and good for your spine. And as things start to feel a little bit looser, you can go a bit deeper into the movement. So next we'll bring our knees together, lift our feet off the floor, and then twist our hips side to side. So we're laterally flexing at the spine, getting movement through the hips, and you can see the spine stays in a neutral position. I'll show you this from the front. You can see that I'm not really leaning side to side. I'm trying to bring my shoulder towards my hip every time I do this twisting movement, every time I side bend. And then we'll come back onto all fours so that we can go up into our A-frame. And with this position, I'm trying to push my chest towards my feet, and then I can just wiggle my hips, lift my heels to kind of stretch out my calves and hamstrings and come into a nice A position. I'm trying to keep a straight line from my wrist to my hips, so I'm doing that by elevating my shoulders up to my ears. And then I'm going to step my feet forwards to come into a nice deep body weight squat. I can push my knees out if I want to, and then I simply put my hands down and step my feet back to come back into my A-frame. I'm then going to really slowly and with control move between these two positions, making sure that I stay within a comfortable range of motion in each position. So I'm just stepping my feet forwards or backwards to move between the two. You can explore the A-frame if you would like to, if that helps to loosen up the back of your legs. And then coming back into my squat, chest is up, pushing my knees out to make sure that my ankles don't collapse in. And then staying in my squat, I'm going to twist. So I'm going to push one arm against one knee and lift the other hand up to the ceiling. And I get a nice rotation through my spine, as well as working on my hip mobility at the same time. So I'm moving between the two twists with control, and then you can hold that twisted position as much as you would like to. If you struggle with your body weight squat, then you can do this exercise sitting on 1 or 2 yoga blocks. So if it feels very uncomfortable to just sit in a relaxed squat, or you don't have the mobility for it, I recommend sitting on something low to the ground to assist. So next we'll come to sitting, and I want to sit in this 90-90 position where I've got one leg bent in front and the other leg bent behind. So you can see this from the side. And then I just like to have a little wiggle. From here, I'm going to lift my knees up, trying to keep my feet planted on the ground, and I'm going to roll over to one side. I'm then going to do the same, and I can keep moving between these two 90-90 positions. If this feels hard to do, then I recommend putting your hands down behind you to help. Otherwise, you can do it with your arms up like I'm demonstrating, and this just means that your hips are working a little bit more on their own. There's also a bit of compression going on as I lift my knees up. Next, we're going to lie on our back. I'm going to hug one knee into my chest, and then I'm going to straighten the other leg, and I'm going to lift it up. I want the leg to be locked out and straight. It's a bit hard to see because I've got jeans on, but that's what I'm aiming for, so you can point the toe to help with this. I'm not really using anything except the hip flexor and quad and a bit of lower abs, and you can see my pelvis and back stays flat and still on the mat. So I don't want my pelvis to lift off the ground. I want to work within the range of motion that my hamstrings will allow. If this does feel particularly uncomfortable, you can make the movement smaller, or you can have a slight bend in the knee so that there is less of a stretch through your hamstring. But ideally we want straight legs if that feels comfortable to do. So then we're going to sit back up with our hands slightly behind our hips, feet in front of us, and for this I recommend turning your fingers out to the side because it will be less strain on our wrists. We're going to come to a reverse tabletop and then swing our hips back underneath us for our swing sets. To make this easier, simply step your feet further away from your hands. To make this harder, bring your feet closer to your hands. We're really trying to focus on this tabletop position where we're opening our shoulders and squeezing our shoulder blades together. You can see the external rotation in my shoulder as I lift my hips and my chest stretches, and then I send my hips back underneath me. So this, you'll also feel this in your core. It's a bit more of a strength as well as mobility exercise. And then for the last reverse tabletop, you can hold it and just hold that active stretch like I'm demoing. So next we'll come back to a cross-leg sitting position. If it feels uncomfortable to do this on the floor, sit on a yoga block. I'm then going to stretch one hand behind me and bring the opposite hand to my knee, and this creates a twist through my spine. I'm then going to pulse away from the arm that's resting on my knee to try and create a deeper twist. So you might find with this one that you can get in a little bit deeper because we've already done some thoracic rotation exercises, and also it feels quite nice to do in a sitting up position. But again, stay within ranges of motion that feel good for you. You don't need to push this too hard. Next, we'll look at the half pancake. So I recommend doing this sitting on a yoga block because it just feels a lot more comfortable. I'm going to have one leg out to the side like I would for a pancake, and the other leg is bent. I'm then going to take my sternum and point it towards my knee, and then I'm going to reach one arm up and side bend over the straight leg. So I'm turning my body away from the straight leg towards the bent leg, and that keeps a really good open side bend as I pulse away and towards my foot. I'm only moving as much as my range of motion will allow in this position, so it's not about trying to get your hand to touch your foot unless you are super flexible. It's about side bending through the spine and keeping the core and obliques in particular engaged so that you can get this nice active side flexion. And then we'll just finish up with some slow, gentle neck circles. So again, sitting cross-legged or in a position that feels comfortable. And I'm gently rotating my head around my neck, making sure that I get a stretch in each direction, but I'm staying within a comfortable range of motion. And changing direction when you're ready. So this was just me mobilizing because I felt particularly stiff and I thought I would record it in case it's helpful for another aerialist. Feel free to give it a go, and if you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe for more. Thanks guys.